Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm here with Spencer from Sego. Welcome, Spencer.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So it's been a little over a month now since South by happened. And ladies and gentlemen, we got to see Sego at this really cool place called the Armadillo Den on Wednesday night. And then the next day, we see them in the parking lot because we were seeing another band called Seamoya. Where are they from? Do you remember?
They're German, so yeah, they were living in they were living in Canada for a while, and then but yeah, they're from Germany.
Yeah. So we end up chatting in the parking lot, and this is kind of how this happened right now. So that's kind of cool. So you've been to South by before, you've been to Austin before. Talk about your experience with South by and Austin itself.
Um, I mean, I've been going to South by in different iterations of music acts for the last 10 years, and so it's been interesting through the it was always kind of like the one of the highlights for me of the year to one perform, but also kind of get a pulse of what's going on musically around the country and world. And so I'd always come home with like a new, playlist of cool bands that we had either played with or seen. And so yeah, the it was good to finally get back to South by because we'd taken a few years off since 2019. And I don't know. I mean, this is just tangential, but you get attached to a city and an idea, and so watching even Austin grow as fast as it's growing is kind of throws me off, and it makes me feel kind of somewhat like sad that it's shifted so fast. But anyway, but at the core is amazing because the same thing happens. You play 8 shows in 3 or 4 days, and you know barely sleep and see a bunch of music, and it was all great. You actually, the show you came to, I that was our first show of the trip, and I immediately blew out my voice that night, and I didn't regain it for the remainder of the trip.
So we saw
So
you at peak form.
yeah, the only one. The rest of it was just survival mode, Spencer. We had to kind of cater the set a little bit because I struggling getting up to some notes. So, you know,
Did
but
you have
that's
Tom and Alyssa help out, or did anybody else kind of kick in or vocally?
yeah, I definitely had to have them, especially on the gang vocal, especially on like Neon Me Out was like probably the crux of
Mm.
the difficulties, but um, you know, things that I never really thought about back in the day when I wasn't singing in a band, but you got to watch out for that kind of thing.
So I'm glad you mentioned Neon Me Out because that was really my first, taste of what you guys did as a band. And it
Yeah.
immediately just blew me away. I mean, it's an anthem, it's powerful, it's emotional. Talk about the songwriting and the story behind that song.
Um, the I guess it's fun. Like most of our songs, they usually begin with a bass line or riff of some sort. I grew up playing bass, and like upright bass and orchestra, but also was kind of obsessed with bass guitar. And so I think at the root of all of this, the bass is always kind of at the core. And so it started off with a chopped up bass sample from like an old Motown thing that had been rearranged in every version that made it sound almost unplayable. And then it's like, well, there's a nugget there. And then learning how to play it with an actual bass, and then layering what I thought was going to be a punk rock song. Like in my mind, and this is maybe going too deep on it, but in my mind, I thought, I'm like, man, is this too close to that Jim Carroll song? Like, there's that, I don't know if you know the People That Died song,
I
um,
don't know. What decade are we talking?
70s.
Okay.
Uh, there's this song that I really love called People Who Died. And anyway, the cadence of it is kind of similar. And so when I wrote it, I was like, oh no, like, and I had imagined it going a lot faster, like double time drums.
Mm.
But then as it kind of came out, we slowed it way down and widened it out. Um, and so yeah, it took its own life, or its own form. But yeah, that was kind of the inception of the song.
So that is off an album called Sego Sucks, which
Correct.
is an, I must say, an odd name, but obviously there is a story behind that, and it's your website. So
Yeah, it's our website. It's quick become the chant, the fan favorite chant at all of our shows. If I if we get recognized in the street by a fan, that's usually the call sign. But yeah, I was dissuaded to name it that initially because our manager at the time felt that it might send the wrong message. But actually, like, for us, it kind of is the message because it is, you can't please everybody. And it just felt like, if 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 we're going to get trashed anyway for arbitrary reasons, it might as well be the first of the party. um but yeah, like you'd mentioned earlier, the the actual Sego sucks, mantra came from an actual tweet that we received. It was a hashtag, actually. So uh, some haters online started a Sego sucks hashtag that I felt was such a good sign because it meant that someone cared enough to hate us, which is,
absolutely.
in a world where there's so much forgettable material, to be hated is to get at least above a threshold. So I thought it was amazing. So we made like Sego sucks t-shirts initially, and then it's just like, this actually is sort of defining us. And the lyrics kind of all fed and funneled into the same ethos. So yeah, for being such a silly, self-deprecating, yeah, title, it was pretty apropos.
Yeah, it absolutely is now, in retrospect, right?
Yeah.
So, living in LA now, you've been in LA for how long now?
Tom and I have been here. We moved down with our old band, so we've been here for a decade.
Okay. Growing
Um,
up though in Utah,
but we grew
you
up
know,
in Utah.
it's a pretty big, A to B, correct? I would say.
Yeah, yeah. This was
So,
this was the big city, and
right,
lights.
right. It wasn't Salt Lake City, right?
It's not Salt Lake City. It's different. I mean, and the thing is, we still really rep Utah. Like, it's our other hometown still. We definitely feel an allegiance to both LA and Utah, but I love it here, and it
In
serves me
different ways.
differently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
definitely.
think I think both actually, ironically, both places get a bad rap for a lot of different things and get a lot of trash talk. So I end up finding myself defending both LA and Utah on a pretty regular basis. I find them both very charming.
So the band itself is named after the state flower of Utah, correct?
Yeah, yeah, the Sega
So
Lily.
so I would say your audience, and now that I've listened to your full catalog, a lily doesn't come to mind when I think of your band. So, talk about that. Why was the name?
Well, it actually, for me, um, there was on top of it being the state flower, there was a festival, a short-lived festival that happened in Provo, Utah, which is the scene that we were kind of birthed, both Tom and I and Kathleen.
Mhm.
Um, Derv is from Santa Barbara, so she's an adopted,
Yeah.
Utah now. But um, yeah, there was a short-lived festival called Sego Fest in Provo, and it was run by just a couple kind of inspired local indie bands that created this huge community, and it was this real glow of of excitement and inspiration for me at that time in my life. And looking around, and we played it with our band on the last year that it was around. It was only around 3 years anyway, but that like always stuck in my mind as like a real watermark year, and or benchmark year. And anyway, so yeah, when we were finally, after our other band, Eyes Up Size, ended up doing what bands do and breaking up, started looking for other opportunities, and this became a thing. And in naming it, yeah, it's like you end up writing 150 names in a little notebook, and most of them are terrible, but this one like always just felt a little special to me. So
Yeah. It's
it's
short,
not,
it's sweet. Yeah.
yeah, not trying to blow anyone's mind, but like it's special to us and it's
Mhm.
meaningful. So
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. So playing in bands before, as you mentioned, you weren't the lead singer, and now in Sego, you are the lead singer. Talk about that dynamic. Talk about, how being more, is it more of a diplomatic with decision making with the band, or are you kind of looked as kind of the leader?
well, kind of answer all of that. The so
Yeah,
the
sorry.
yeah,
Too many
no, yeah, it's
questions. Sorry.
all that in parts. The yeah, growing up being always the bassist or the guitarist in any given band, and through the years, it's suited my personality really well because I'm not necessarily a super verbose, outrageous personality, and so I would always attach to an outrageous personality. Like with Eyes Up Eyes, my cousin Tony, he was he was kind of a mix between Fred Schneider and I guess, I don't know, David
Shaggy?
Byrne or something like that. He
Oh,
was just very outrageous, like
yeah.
personality, and that was enough so I could just hide behind him and fill up like the noise floor, and I felt like those situations suited me really well. And when after that, kind of when all those went away and I was writing my own songs, I was actually looking for a different someone else to sing. I was like auditioning different singers, or
Mhm.
I tried to get Tom to sing for a time. It's just like someone else should sing, but here are these songs. And just out of kind of, you know, utility, I just ended up singing them myself on myself on the recording, and it just kind of accidentally fell into it. And so it's definitely been a learning process for me how to conduct myself authentically still, in a live element, but try to elevate to that focal point a little bit more. But I don't know. As you saw us play though, we definitely try to twist it a little bit. So I tend to like sit on the left side of the stage and put Derv in the middle. So people are expecting Derv to be the lead singer until we start.
I did notice
Uh,
that. That was, yeah, I picked
it's
up I picked up on that.
yeah, every lighting guy hates that setup, but it's intentional. But yeah, like I remember at the time when our other bands broke up, I felt kind of powerless as like this secondary, not secondary, but like uh you kind of rise and fall with that guy that's singing or
Mhm.
girl. And so it kind of occurred to me as this started up that's like, well, this is the ultimate job security because like I don't have to worry about me leaving, so I'm just gonna keep plugging away at this thing.
Right.
So
It
yeah,
gave you an
so
extra confidence that you didn't have maybe before. Is that fair to say?
yeah, yeah, I guess it kind of it's grown. It's grown a little bit. I feel like I'm fairly self assured as a person, but when I get out in front of a crowd, it's a different kind of confidence that's required, I guess. So yeah, it's definitely evolved through the last few years for sure.
Do you have a routine that you do before you go on stage, or are you like a creature of habit when it comes to stuff like that, or not really?
um, beyond just doing um the vocal warm-ups, I try not to look outside like when I'm in the green room. So that's where I end up psyching myself out,
Yeah,
I think I don't know if everyone's a little bit different, but you look out and if there's not a packed room, you just start kind of wondering, like, is it me? Are they gonna hate? And I try not to have that mentality going in. I like to like enter the stage and be like fully present in the moment. But yeah, no hardcore superstitions or rituals that I've hung on to as of yet. Other than I guess we do have this little slap game that we play before we get on stage to
okay,
kind of knock the lethargy out of us.
sure.
We'll kind of we'll kind of give each other a free shot, like full slap to the face, um, and that's usually enough to give a little dose of adrenaline.
Sure.
Yeah.
If it didn't, I'd be surprised.
Yeah,
So I gotta ask about the cube. And well, yeah, first of all, let's talk about the cube, and then I want to hear inspiration from the bassist in Paul Simon's band.
exactly.
But first, let's hear
So
about the cube.
yeah, the cube. So this is part of the cube. This is the back. You can't. I guess you can't really see much of the ceiling or whatever. But
Right.
there, we moved down here into this warehouse just outside of downtown, and there are a couple units next to each other. And this is where we like throw events and record and also live. So all four of us are here. Me and my wife live in the back, and then the front, Derv, Tom, and Alyssa, or Derv, Tom, and Kathleen live in the front. So it's like this nice little community that's been ever evolving for years and years, like goes through different phases of wildness and then tranquility. Um, but yeah, it is unassumingly placed next to a cement factory and a UPS trucking hub, um, right here, right by the LA River. So it's just kind of nestled into nowhere here, but it's perfect for uh, I don't know. I guess it's perfect for exactly what we came for, which is just like live, work, and focus kind of situation. We just
It's
threw a
like your
show
own
here.
compound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We just threw a show here the other night. We did a 360 show, and so we are able to kind of take over and put up stages around the room and bring in sound and kind of throw our own things without feeling like we did it because we weren't able to crack into the scenes in Silver Lake and Echo Park with our old band, and then it's just like, well, we'll just create our own community here, and then it just kind of has residually existed for a long time now. So yeah, we're still here, still kicking it.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you really, like you said, you created a community that wasn't there.
Yeah.
How big is this space? Like, how many can you fit in this?
It's gone through phases. So in the back, like where I live, it's like an old pasta factory that's been here since for like 100 years. Um, and then the front is kind of like the additions to it. I would walk you through. There's a band rehearsing in there right now,
Yeah, no
but
worries. Yeah, yeah.
the but I don't know. Like at one point, there were probably 10 people living between the two units, but right now it's just the five or the four of us, five of us. Um, so it's kind of ebbed and flowed. This is a pretty mellow setup right now, which is kind
Yeah.
of nice.
Exactly at
A
what
little
you
less
want
stress.
at this point, right?
Yeah, it's perfect for right now.
So, and then let's talk about the inspiration from. I couldn't pronounce his name, so I'll let you.
Yeah. Let me actually. I should look up the pronunciation so I don't embarrass myself.
Fair
What
enough.
is it? But yeah, the hold
No, you're good, man.
on.
So just announced Wildorado, huh?
Oh
How
yeah, and
exciting
that
is that, dude? Those guys are so good too. Like we're you're playing somewhere like mid-Atlantic, right? I think.
we're
I'll have to
yeah. Let's see.
look.
We're doing Chicago, then down to um. We're definitely doing Chicago, Athens, and Carborough, and one more. What is the second one? Oh, Nashville. We're doing Nashville.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, we're gonna that's just like kind of the first announcement. We have a few other things that we're kind of building up to,
Nice.
so we can kind of connect the dots a little bit and
Yeah.
make sure our you know our gas is covered there and back because it's a bit of a haul. I made a decree earlier that this year to myself that we weren't going to pass Denver, um, because we just wanted to focus on the West Coast and kind of build up the markets out here and cycle more frequently the areas instead of
Mhm.
once every year. We wanted to come back 3 times a year to some of these areas.
Mhm.
But then, sure enough, Wildorado hit us up, and we we got to be friends with them a few years ago, and we're like, well, let's do it. Be
Yeah.
awesome. Rekindle with those guys, but
What size rooms are those?
they're theater size, so
Nice.
um, like I can't remember how many Georgia Theater holds, but I think it's like
800,000.
like 1,000 plus,
Yeah.
which will be cool.
Heck
Those
yeah.
guys have been killing it for the last few years, and um, it was just funny because it's funny how you just kind of become fast friends with bands through the process of touring or whatever. But we played a show with those guys, and then by the end of the night, we are just all hugging it out and sharing numbers and doing the thing. And then we went our separate ways and haven't seen them for a few years. And you get to the opportunity to unite forces once again. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. That's the power of music, man. You
It
just
is.
there's so many ways and, you know, yeah, it's examples of that, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something else that's beautiful.
Okay.
The news, or were you going to say something? Go ahead if you were going to say.
Oh, I was gonna circle back on
Yeah,
Bakithi
thank you.
Malo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, nice. I like
yeah,
it. Very
yeah. I was
good
just I was
pronunciation.
looking at the phonetics just to make sure I didn't blow it.
You chat
Uh,
GPT'd it. I got you.
yeah, but yeah, the we were asked to give influences for Tandang, for a blog, and and I don't know. I'm not super keen on those kind of moments because it's just a song kind of erupts out of you a lot of times, and it's hard to be like. It's rare when I'm like, yeah, I want to do this one Violent Femme song. I want to like
Mm,
recreate it. That's you never really how it works. But so yeah, I was kind of like going through and trying to dig up some like deeper um references that influenced it, and he's definitely that one of the growing up being kind of a bass nerd. I was enticed by any bass breakout, and he has a couple of those big solos on Graceland, and he had a fretless bass, and I hated fretless at the time, but he was so good when I listened to it. I was like, it's kind of undeniable. Um, anyway, so I've always wanted to work in a fretless into a song, but in a tasteful way because I feel
yep.
like it's all so plasticky, plasticky and kind of lame. Anyway, but yeah, so when we showed up into the studio and we were all kind of exhausted, we'd been broken down in Colorado for a week or two, and so we were just very excited to try anything. And we had this fretless bass. We're like, working this into the song one way or another.
I hate this thing.
Yeah, I hate this. It's gonna work. And so yeah, I had to tip my hat to Mr. Kamalo for passing that reference down to me, is like giving it a shot, because it ended up working out great. Sounds fun and weird.
So let's talk about music that's coming out. What can your fans, what can your audience expect for the rest of the year? Are we getting
Uh,
singles? Are we going to get an EP? Are we going to get
so
anything?
so we have kind of declared softly that we're going to be putting out singles every 6 weeks until someone forces us to put out the record in its entirety. So
Nice.
until until that point comes along, we're just kind of like soldiering it. So yeah, the next single's coming out here in probably a month or so.
Yeah.
Um, and so on and so forth. But we have a lot of cool friends that have kind of joined forces with us to do remixes of a lot of the songs, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot of material going to be coming down the pike. But yeah, that I was just meeting with our manager yesterday about that, trying to iron down the timeline. But it is got our photos done. It's coming. So
It does seem like that is the way that bands are releasing music nowadays. It's not albums, it's singles, or you're releasing singles like you said, you release the singles and then release the album. But if you
yeah,
release the album as a whole, you're going to get more plays, if you release those songs as singles instead of, it's the 10th song on the 12 song album.
yeah, exactly. Like
And
the
the way the market is now and the way you're what's the word, compensated, you're kind of forced into that model, kind of, right? I mean,
Yeah, and there's like just a dose of like harsh reality that I impose on myself, which is, I think it's easy for bands to, well, I don't speak for bands. It's easy for me to kind of think lofty of myself
mhm,
and be like, yeah, like I'm gonna put out I'm gonna drop this record. But the reality is, like, there probably aren't enough people to really justify throwing that many songs just out the window for like two songs to get kind of grabbed as like a promo piece. And so for us, it's like, well, let's just release this stuff and use every song as an opportunity to reach out and promote a little bit and meet new people, make new fans. And
yeah.
then like maybe we sneak out a secret vinyl along the way or something like that, just to fans. But like, as far as online goes, well, yeah, the singles seems to be it makes sense until it doesn't, I guess. And so we're just gonna keep cruising with that.
Yeah. It's I think it's cyclical like everything else, and hopefully it'll come back to where, like albums are, like more of the mainstream than worrying about, that 3 minute, top 40 song. But
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean,
yeah.
we all experience that feeling when like a new series comes out, and like you want to binge the whole freaking series and you stay up all night watching Barry or whatever. And so like I I think that the way that music is consumed isn't like that necessarily. Like, people aren't just so hungry to listen to the whole record, they're just kind of grabbing nibbles of this and that.
Yeah.
But who knows what the future may hold. So I'm just I'm just part of a ride. It's all good.
It's all good, man, right? We're just
Yeah,
living the dream, right?
it's all good. Yeah.
So let's talk about shows upcoming. You got May 5th at the Vinyl Lounge in Nashville, correct?
Right.
May
Wait.
17th. Oh,
May. Wait. May we're playing in San Diego.
yeah, May 17th, right?
Yeah, and then
No
oh
Nashville
the
show.
the Vinyl Lounge. It's funny you bring this up.
Yeah.
So there's another Sego with an O, with a slash through the O, and he and I have been
It was
battling
on your
for.
Bandcamp page though that
I
you were
know it gets mixed up. People post it and they think it's us.
sons of
eh,
the bitches.
Apparently
We
he's a
will
nice
hunt
guy.
them down and find them.
I have a friend who ran into him in Nashville, and he's like, "Yeah, there's a DJ going by Sego, but with like a O at the slash," and he keeps grabbing all of my old uh, like social media handles. So we were Sego Music, and then we went to Sego, and he grabbed the Sego Music, and he grabbed our old Twitter, and so yeah, we're like, I don't know, yeah, frenemies. Yeah, he's
A
the other
digital battle.
digital battle ground for IP.
Oh,
But no, so we're not playing in Nashville in May. I
okay.
had that same shock today. I was like, wait, did we book something in Nashville?
I mean, I
I
love
got to remove
Nashville.
it. I got it taken down. But
Okay, cool.
so
So
yeah, the next one we're doing is San Diego, and then we are. It's not on the books, but we're kind of got a bunch of regional stuff. We're gonna hit like kind of the West Coast with some friends in June, hopefully, and um, I don't know. Yeah, the announcement's forthcoming, but
yeah,
right
sure.
now, yeah, we got the festival this fall, and then
Super
heading out.
Bloom, yeah.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
national parks are I'm a huge fan of. We saw
Oh,
them.
cool.
They came to Harrisburg back in October. They opened up for Judah and the Lion, which obviously
Okay.
another Utah band. Uh Put on a great show. I think they're touring right now. Matt Mason, he's amazing. JP Sachs, so
Yeah,
good. So what a lineup, man.
yeah. It's wild. Yeah, those national parks have just continued to climb and climb and climb, and it's been remarkable seeing them just fill theaters now.
Yeah.
And another shout out to those Provo bands.
Yeah.
It's a real kind of hot spot for up and comings always. But
Do you are you familiar with a band called Fictionist?
oh yeah, good friends with those guys.
Dude, what happened to those guys? Are they still like playing?
Stu just opened for our last show in Provo
Get the
last
heck
week.
out of here. Are you
Yeah, yeah.
serious? Dude,
So
those guys are like that I forget what the album's called, but it probably came out 10 to 15 years ago. It was phenomenal.
Lasting Echo or
No,
um, Invisible Hand
that
or
sounds like it. Yeah.
yeah, it might have
Was
been.
that the yeah, okay. I think
Yeah,
that is
those
what it is. Dude, those
those
guys
guys.
are
Well, they're
so
just a
talented.
super group. Yeah, they each member of that band is its own, wealth of talent that is unfairly distributed. But they're still together. Actually, they're working on a new record. Well, I don't know if they formally announced that, but well, now you know. They're I ran into Stu in the studio the other day, and he gave me a little sneak peek, and it's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's
so they're
awesome.
still kind of together when it works, but Stu went on to create. This is just going to be a big fiction a shout out moment, but Stu went on to create this band called Stu Cool, which is like an S2 number two, cool,
Okay.
and it's like this Jamiroquai super funk, complicated, cool stuff.
Oh.
Put out two full lengths with that. He did this record, instrumental record called Mr. Mental, that he that's what he opened for this last show with.
Okay.
And then he just produces and plays on everybody's records. But then Robbie, the guitarist, um, he joined the Killers, so he's like full time in the Killers now. So
Oh,
he's
wow.
always traveling everywhere. But he came back. He'll come back to do stuff here and there. And their drummer is like just like crazy busy session player, Aaron, and I don't know. So they're all kind of like
Yeah.
exploded, but we'll bring it back together for heritage sake and put a record together every few years. So
All
they
right.
did. I'm not sure if you heard Sleep Machine, but they put out a kind of a 10-minute song. It's like a bunch of commercials for songs. It's really really good.
Okay.
um but I think that was the last thing that they released formally.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, it's funny, them. Those guys are such good such good homies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, dude, Spencer, this has been awesome. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, when we get out to LA, we're gonna definitely have to check out the Cube if we have an invitation. That would be amazing.
Hit us up. Let's get tacos. Show you the whole compound.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Guys, this
course.
has been the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg. This has been Spencer from Sego. Check them out on tour this year. Sounds like there's going to be a lot more tour announcement coming.
Yeah.
Listen to their new singles, Surrender and Tandang. And much love, guys. All the
Thanks
best.
so much. Yeah.
Appreciate
Thanks
you.
everybody. Thanks.
Peace.
Have a good one.
Yep.